controller's register action method, because the request would be from account controller's register action method. So as you don't specify the controller and the action method name, right, this form will be submitted to the account controller register action method, but with post data, body of data. Okay. Then we make some changes into the layout file. Why we make some changes? We are including the navigation link for registration and login. Okay. So like we have a list and create, we are adding a link for registration here. And there we specify that if user clicks on this link, user should be redirected to the controller account in the action method register. Okay. So now you can see that in the navigation menu, you have a register link. Okay. And when the user clicks on it, right, these registration forms open, right, which is a field for email, password, and confirm password. Okay. Now we need to implement the action method which will register the user based on the data which is submitted in this form. That is remaining. Okay, fine. So now we have these two classes. So far you are aware of user manager and role manager, but we have another classes which is sign in manager. Okay, so far we are aware of identity user and identity role classes. Now there are two more classes, user manager and sign in manager. User manager will manage the users, like add the user. That means it will create the user, it will delete the user, it will update the user. And sign in manager will do the sign in task, like it will sign in the user, it will sign out the user. Okay, and that's why we need to use this two class. So this class has say different functions like create async, delete async, update async. Asynchronous means you are not blocking any user. If multiple users are requesting, they will all get access to the system at the same time. It's async code. Okay, and for identity, you need to use async code. Right, so whichever say support is required for using it, I'll just explain it. Okay, so user manager class will manage the users. The sign in manager will manage the user sign in and sign out. Okay, so these are the two services, right, we need to inject in the account controller. Right, so you can see here in the account controller, like earlier we were using staff mock repository and staff interface, so we need to inject them. Now here we want to use the services of user manager, sign in manager, we need to inject them. Okay, so here we are creating the private field for them, and here we are injecting them with the instance name user manager, sign in manager. Okay, now let's create the post register services. Okay, data will come from the form, and then it will have a data of type register view model. Right, we will check if the validations are passed. If validations are passed successfully, right, then now here you see the thing. Register view model is not the actual class. You don't want to create a table based on it. It's just a class model you have created for rendering a view. Based on that, whichever data will come, it will go to some different class. Which class? Identity user. So here you create a class identity user. Okay, and there from your data you copy email and you make it for username and for email, because in identity user you have many properties. Among them, one is username, another is email. So here we want to keep the username as email ID, right? So for both property username and email, right, we are copying the model's email property for this identity user instance user. Then once you create a user instance, right, you need to add it. Where you need to add it? Into the user manager. So you need to call create async method on the user manager. Now whenever you are accessing async method, right, you must await on it. Right, So that's why here the method is async. That's why here we are writing await. Okay, so await username.create async. And what you need to pass when you are creating it, you need to pass the user instance and the password. When you create an user, right, to add into identity user, you need to pass two things: the user you wants to add and the password of that user, right? Then if the result is successful, if the user has been created successfully, then what you want to do as user is created successfully, right? You want to sign in the user, right? Or sometimes we don't want to sign in, we want to redirect the user to the login page. But say here, if the user is registered successfully, we want to sign in the user, right? So if the result is successful, is succeeded, then we want to call the sign in async method for the sign in manager instance. Okay, so sign in manager dot sign in async. Again, it is async method. So first await sign in manager dot sign in async. Then here, which user you want to sign in? The user that has just been created. And then second is persistent. Whether you want to set the cookie persistent manner or not. Persistent means right now we are setting it false. False means if the user doesn't sign out, but user close the browser, then user is signed out. But if it is persistent, then the cookie will be maintained. So even if the user closes the browser, reopens the browser, if the cookie is not expired, user is signed in. Okay, so that control we have. So right now we are keeping is persistent false. So it is not persistent. So whenever user will close the browser, user will be signed out automatically, or user will be signed out if you implement the sign out method. Okay, and once the user is signed in, we want to redirect the user to the index action method of home controller. Right? So we want to redirect the user to the index action method of home controller. And if so there is any error, so there are no validation error. So you can see that this for each loop is within this if model state dot is valid. That means there are no model validation error in the registration page, but there are some other errors. Then we will add those errors into the model state. We will add it into the model state, right? So that those errors will be displayed on the page to the user. Okay. And if the model state is not valid, that means the validations are failed, then we will return the registration view with the error and the model. Okay, so here is the user registration page. So without specifying anything, user is clicking on the registration button. So we have validations, right? So because of these lines, return view model, right? And model state is not valid, this line is executed, return view model. And so we are seeing this error. The email is required, password field is required, etc. The summary and the control specific error. Okay, Ronak has asked a question. Okay, let me just go back to that slide. Yes, here it is decorated by HTTP post. That's why it will handle the post or the form data, right? And before that, this method, which is decorated with get, so which is here. Here, these will handle the get method request, right? And these would the post one. Okay. Fine. So now, say you specify the email address tom@xyz.com. Okay. So then you have more errors. So password must be at least 6 characters and other things. We have not specified these password options. That what should be the criteria for password. So this is the default criteria in the password option class of identity system. If you want to change it, you can change it. We will see how. Okay, but this is the default criteria. And who is Tom? Tom is the Tom Hanks. Right? So now you specify the email, you specify the password, you specify the confirm password. Okay. So when I'll share the application where all these things are already happened, you need a password. So in the slides note section, the password is also available. Okay, so you can use it. Okay, so now as the registration would be successful, now you will see that in the ASP.NET users class, we will have this entry. We have this ID, username, right? Email address and the password hash. Okay, so that's how the registration is successful. And why it is registered to this ASP.NET users class? Because here, if you remember, here we transferred the instance from this register view model into this identity user class. That's why the entry is in ASP.NET users class. Okay, so we don't need to create the user class by ourselves if the fields which are available in ASP.NET users or identity user class are enough for us. For example, field for city is not available. Field for gender is not available. You need it, you modify it. Which class? Identity user. No, you don't modify these default classes, right? For example, say I want to add gender property to my user. Then what should I do? I should not modify identity user class. What should I do? Yes, anyone? Yes, identity user class is created by .NET Core Identity by default. Okay, correct. Inherit. You create a class, my user, or say staff user, and then inherit from identity user. So you will have all the property of identity user as well as whichever property you will add into staff, those will be added to the identity user. Okay, and some other changes also you need to make. Wherever you are using identity user, instead of that you need to use your own class. Okay, so inherit is the right way, right? And we will see actually in this slide discussion we have that example where we will modify it, but that would be in the next week. Okay, so let's continue from here. Now say password complexity. Say we want to change this password complexity, because when you are developing a project, right, every time it is difficult to remember the passwords if this much complexity is there. So if you want to modify, you can modify. So where we can modify it? So you can see this on the GitHub as well in the password option class. Okay, or what you can do is that in your say project, I'll specify where you can see this password option class. Okay. But first of all, how to change this password option class constraint? So there are two ways, and both are from startup class. Okay, so we can change this from the iService collection interface in the configure service method, or we can change this when we were adding the identity services, again in the configure services method. So let's see the first way. So here in the configure services, you see that you have added the EF core, this first one, you have added the identity. Now you are changing the password option class. So password option is the option of identity. So identity options, it's the generic parameter. And then if you want to see the password option class, then you click on these identity options and then go to definition. And there within the identity options class, you will see this password option class. Okay. So here if you click, right, you will see the password option class and all its properties. Okay, here again on the password options, you need to click and go to definition. Okay, so that's another way. Now, say how to change it. So on the identity options, I want to change the option. For which you want to change the options? I want to change the options for password. So options.password, required length is this, required unique characters are these, required non-alphanumeric is false, etc. So you can change this, right? So this is the one way of modifying the password options. Okay, in the configure service using identity option. What is the other? So when we are adding the identity here, so when we are adding the identity, you say that, okay, I want to change these options for password options. There also you can change the password option class properties. Okay, so here we have changed the password option class. And so now accordingly, the errors would be displayed. So again, Eastwood is Clint Eastwood. Okay. Now next, now the login and logout functionality. We have implemented the registration facility, right? But once the user is logged in, right, then we should only display the link of logout. And if the user is not logged in, then we should display the link of login and registration. But when the user is already logged in, we should not display the link of login and the link of registration, right? So we should manage these. So here we need to modify the view to display the link of login, logout accordingly. So which file we should modify? Anyone, any idea? Which view file we should modify to display the link of login, logout? Yes, layout. Yes, correct. Right. So here actually what I'm doing is in the view import file, I'm adding the identity because I want to use its classes. Okay. Why I'll need the classes of identity user? Because I need to know whether user is logged in or not, user is signed in or not. So that sign in service is available with sign in manager, right? Identity user class. So sign in manager has a idea of the sign in services and it will identify whether a specific user is signed in or not. Okay, that's why I'm specifying the namespace in the view import. And then I'm injecting the service in the layout.cshtml file. That for sign in manager, I want to use identity user, that specific user is signed in, or if I want to sign out the user. Okay, the instance name would be sign in manager. So here already we have a navigation link for registration. When user clicks on the registration, user is redirected to the account controller register action method. Now next, first we will check in the beginning of the form whether the user is signed in or not. Sign in manager dot is signed in user. So if the user is signed in, then we'll display the link of logout. And we will display user's identity's name. Name would be email. So it will display the email of the user. Okay. So beside the logout button, we'll display the email. Okay. So if the user is logged in, signed in, we'll display the logout button. And when the user will click on this button, right, user will be redirected to the account controller's logout action method, and the data will be sent as a post. Why should we not use get here? We can use get. It's just a click event, right? There are no model binding here. Then why are we using post? Anyone? So when the user click on the sign out, if the user is logged in, the user will be taken to the account controller's logout action method to sign out from the system. But why we are making this request as a post, not get? Any idea? No, for security, but not for hiding anything. It is to prevent certain attacks. For example, say there is someone malicious user. Okay, and say the malicious user will create an image. Okay, there is an image somewhere in the application, and say the email's source property, href property, or sorry, image, say source property or image is yes, image is displayed, and say image is displayed within the hyperlink, and hyperlink's href property is set to the account/logout. So you have no idea, but as you will click on the image, what will happen? You will be logged out because there is a GET request. But if it is a POST request, that won't happen, right? So in this manner, if it is a GET request, then there is a vulnerability in the system. Anyone can use it, right? So we want to avoid this kind of vulnerability. And that's why the framework of a newest version, for example, the latest Laravel 8 or 9, I believe, the latest version, right? They don't allow logout facility. This kind of, you cannot access on the GET request. It must be POST request. Then only it will work. Okay. So that by clicking on an image or a link, right? Say, you just don't sign out automatically, right? Without, say, the proper confirmation. Okay. And what problems we encounter, that we will see. It is known as CSRF attack. Okay. Or also known as XSRF attack. So that we will talk about later on. So that's why we are making a POST request. Otherwise, if you use GET, that will also work. Okay. And then else, in the else part, if the user is not signed in, then we'll display the link of registration and login. That will redirect the user account register or account login. And that request will be GET. Right. So now we need to create the logout method first. So in the account controller, the logout method for HTTP post. We don't need a method for HTTP GET because we don't have form. Right. So here, the logout method, and what we are returning is task of iAction result. Earlier we were returning iAction result, but here we are returning task of iAction result because it is async code. That's why. So whenever it is async code, whatever you are return it as a task of your return tag. That's it. Okay. So if you are not sure of it, just go through the PPT I have already shared, async await. Okay. So sign in manager dot sign out async, and then redirect the user to the index action method of home controller. Okay. So now let's register user Clint. So user is registered. So now the logout link is displayed besides the user email address. As you click on the logout button, right, user will be logged out and you will be on the index action page of home controller. Okay. So these are just some information. Now let's start implementing the login functionality. Any doubts so far? So far we have implemented registration and logout. Login is remaining. Okay. So I think in the last week or before that, we discussed about that biological clock. Right? So this biological clock gets disturbed if you don't get enough sleep, as well as it gets disturbed even if you don't get enough vitamin D. Right? And that's why the sunlight is also, the necessary amount of sunlight is also important, right? Fine. So now let's continue with login functionality. Okay. So for login functionality, we'll need three things. We will need a login page, and which user we want to log in, the users which are already available in the ASP.NET users class or identity user. So we don't need to create a model for that. It is already existing, right? But we need a view. That's why we'll create a view model for login, which is login view model, right? Then we'll need a view, and then we will need action methods. Which action method we'll need? One for a get, one for a post. Get will render the form, post will log in the user if everything is fine. Okay. So login view model, which field you will need for login? Email, password, and the remember me option. So if the remember me is checked, then we'll store the cookie. It would be persistent, right? Otherwise it won't be persistent. Okay. Then we are creating a view for login, where in the accounts folder of views folder. Okay. So here is the code. Okay, and for email password we have the tag helpers. Form method is post. We are not specifying the controller and method because it is coming from the, because this is the login page rendered by the login action method of account controller. So the when user will click, the request will be taken to the account controller login action method. So not necessary. Okay, then the email and password and validation and label everything for it. And then the remember me option. Okay, and here I am using the say HTML helper class, and this remember me option, if you see, it is boolean. It is boolean. So when it is boolean, and if you use HTML helper, it will create a checkbox. For the boolean field, it will automatically create checkbox. Okay. So that is the view, and then we have a submit button. Now in the account controller, this part is already covered. We are injecting the user manager, sign in manager services in the constructor. Then we are creating the login action method that will render the login.cs HTML page. Then from login form, the request will come, the form, the post request will come from the form. That will be handled by this HTTP post. Right, so here you can see the return type is task of iAction result because there will have the asynchronous method. The data would be coming in form of login view model. Okay, so if the model state is valid, right, then we will use sign in manager's sign in method. Which sign in method? Password sign in async. That the sign in is through the password. Sometimes the sign in is through some token based authentication method. Okay, for example, the one of is the JSON web token. Right, essentially you are not specifying password, you have some tokens, and because of that, right, you are signed in. For example, third party sign in. So there you can't use password sign in async method, right? Because for example, you have say sign in based on say third party login. So your system, you are signing users based on whether Google's account or Microsoft account. Then Microsoft will not share the password with you for the user. It will share you a token. That when the user will sign in at a Microsoft or a Google site, they will share you a token. That yes, based on the token, you can say that yes, user is a valid user based on the Microsoft or Google account. So it would be token sign in async method. Okay, but here we are signing the user based on the password. So sign in manager dot password sign in async. What you need to pass? The username, that is email, the password, the remember me. Okay. And the last argument is false. What third argument is what? The third argument is the you want to persist the cookie or not. If the checkbox is checked, that means you want to persist the cookie. If not, you want. What is the fourth argument? Never keep it true when you're developing a project. It is log the account if the sign-in is failed. Okay, so if the sign-in attempt fails, then it will lock the account. Okay, if it is a true, that means it will lock the account if the sign-in attempt fails. Right, so that's why right now we are keeping it false. Okay, then if the result for sign-in is successfully, then we redirect the user to the index of home. And if the result is not successful, that means there are some error while signing, then we add those error into the model state, right? So that when the page is rendered to the user will see those errors. Okay, and if there are error in the model, in the form, then the same view will be rendered with the error. Okay, so here there is a snapshot of password sign in async. The first argument is username, second is password, third is persistent boolean, and lock out on failure is the last argument. So this just keep false. Okay. So now initially register and login link, user will provide the email and password. Right, so right now the validations are kicked in because nothing is specified by the user. Okay, then say if you specify the email and password for the user who doesn't exist, then invalid login attempt. From where it is coming, this error? It is coming from here, model state dot add model error, string empty. Right, so string empty, that means you don't want to say add the default error messages. Okay, you want to add error messages, invalid login attempt. Okay, that's why it is displayed. Okay, now if you specify the correct username and password, then you are logged in with the account of Tom. Right, and here the link of logout is displayed. Okay, so far we have discussed we have discussed registration, login, and logout. Any question? Because now we'll start with authorization. Okay. And for the next lab, we will create a system, right? Similar to the one we did in this week, but we will include both entity framework and the identity. Okay. And what I'll do, I'll create the system in step-by-step manner, and I'll take the snapshot, and I'll share the snapshots with you all. Okay. So it would be in a stepwise manner, because if I'll share the system, you will not realize that in which order you should make those steps. Okay. So I think that would be helpful to you. Okay. Because now the entity framework and the identity we are taking by a separate faculty, right? So it would be difficult for you to collaborate both slides together in just few days. Okay, so question is how it will know that it register model refer to the user model table. Okay, yes, it's a good question. Let's go to that. It's a question of registration, right? Here it is. Yes, but first we'll take the question of registration, so it will be clear to you for login as well, I believe so. So here you can see that in the registration, if you, where are we are? Yes, in the user registration page, which model we are using? Register view model. We are not using identity user model, right? We are using register view model. So data is coming from the register view model when we are trying to register. Okay. So here, when the user will click on the registration, just a minute. Okay, sorry for the interrupt. So the data is coming from the view, in which the form, which is having a data in terms of register view model class. And that should be registered, that should register the user, or that data should transfer to identity user class. Okay, and that's why in the register action method, which handles the post data, which is coming from the register view model, or coming as a register view model, you see here we create an instance of identity user. We create an instance of identity user, which resembles to ASP.NET users in the identity tables. Okay, ASP.NET user table in identity. So that is identity user. So we copy from this model the email to the username, and the model's email again to the email, both property. So we take the data from the register view model and copy it to the identity user class, assign it to the identity user class. Okay, and that user we create. Is it clear now? Okay. And the same thing we do in the login. We have a login view model and then we associate with the identity user. Okay. But thank you for asking that question. It is possible that some other student may have the same question, right? But we are scared to ask a question, right? And many times a valid question. So here you can see that you have the model instance, right? And that model instance you are passing over here, right? And that's why, because when internally it will use the sign-in manager will use the user manager. You can see here, right? Sign-in manager will use the identity user, right? And identity user needs which information? Email, password, options, right? So that you are passing, which are coming from the model, okay? Okay, so now we have completed authentication in terms of that registration, login and logout. Now we'll start with authorization, right? So let's continue. So authentication is the process of identifying who the client is, who the user is. And authorization is the process of identifying what the user cannot do and can do, okay? So now, authorization in .NET Core MVC is controlled through the authorize attribute. That means in the square parenthesis, you write authorize. Okay. So authorize attribute in .NET Core. When the authorize attribute is used in its simplest form without any parameters, it only checks if the user is authenticated. That means simply if you want to authorize, if user is logged in, user is authorized. What is the other way of authorization? You check whether user is authorized in a given role. Authorized, say role is admin. Authorized role is manager, right? But right now we are not worrying about roles. We will see such example later on. Okay. But right now, authorization means user must be logged in, authenticated. Okay. So now you can see that here in the home controller, on the create method, we are writing authorize filter. That means these method can be accessed by a user only if user is authorized, user is authenticated. If user is not logged in, then this is not accessible to the user. The create. User can create another user only if user is signed in. Okay, anonymous user cannot create it. So even the form cannot be seen by the user and the post data method cannot be accessed by the user because both are decorated with authorize. Okay. Don't worry about this process uploaded file. Okay. It will be covered by the Jatayu sir. Because it is basically when you register a user, say if you want to upload a profile image, for that the code is there. Okay. Then we have index method. So in the index section method, we don't have authorize keyword. Okay, that means anyone can access it. Then on the edit again, we use authorize. Anonymous user should not edit the user. So that's why authorize keyword. Right, on both edit. Okay, now next. So now, say here the default URL, so it's a home index. So user is not logged in, so it's fine. Because home index can be accessed by anyone. Authentication is not required. Okay, because there is no authorized filter. Okay, it is also known as authorized filter, authorized attribute, right? And this kind of filter we can create by ourselves. Okay, so you want to override authorization. Then you create my authorization class, which inherit from authorized class. And then whenever you want to specify your authorization, you specify in the square parenthesis, my authorize. That's it. Okay. So that's why here home index without any problem. But now here, the home details too. So again, on that also we have not applied authorization. That's why it is showing the details. Now on home create, as I make a request of home create, and I'm not authorized because I'm not authenticated. So we have this error. Okay, so we have this error, and from where this error is coming? Because we have written some code. That's why. Okay, so here we have this error. Now, first of all, let's add the authorization middleware. So here, there is a mistake. Ideally, we should keep the authentication before routing. Okay, but here just it's a mistake. Okay, so you should always keep this authentication before routing. Okay, and authorization after routing, or you can keep both of them before routing. That is also valid, right? But normally you keep authentication before routing, then routing, and then authorization. Okay, and if you keep in this manner also, there won't be much issue, because ultimately, say if your design is like that, say you have account controller which will handle the login, which will handle the registration and login, right? Then for your account controller, you will need routing. So then this design will work. Okay, so based on your design, you just change the HTTP request processing pipeline. Okay, but ideally we should design our code such that the authentication is plugged in before routing, so no one can misuse it. Okay. So now, okay, so authorization is added into the pipeline. Now what would happen? So now I'm making a request to which URL? I'm making a request of home create, right? Actually, I'm making a request of home create. How can I verify? You see the return URL. See the URL. URL is localhost port account login. That means right now the login accounts, account controller's login action methods page is rendered. But actually user has requested home create, but user doesn't have authorization for that. And for that user has to user must be authenticated first. And that's why the system is redirecting user to the accounts login page. Okay. But when the user is logged in, right, then what we should do? We should redirect again user back to the home create, not to the home index, which is default. Because we know that user has requested home create. So when user successfully log in, we must redirect user to home create. So we can use this return URL. We can use this return URL, right? Once the user is logged in, we can identify that, okay, user has made the request for actually this URL, and we should redirect the user over there. Okay, is it understood? Is the purpose of return URL clear? Yes. Then here there is a glitch. What is the problem? What is the problem? No, this return URL parameter, it is a problematic. What is the problem? You can say it is passed as a query string. It is not passed as a URL data. So as it is a query string, anyone can modify. Right? So this is how some external attacks can kick in. Right? For example, just one demonstration. Say you are trying to log into, say, eGOV site. You have specified username, password. You click on login button. Right? Then it will redirect, because the return URL, it will specify some third-party return URL, right? So eGOV has signed in. In the eGOV, you have specified correct username and password, so it will sign in. But then it will redirect you to some external URL. And external URL is such that it is the same page like the eGOV login page. So you will believe that your login attempt was unsuccessful, not successful, right? But actually your login attempt is successful and you are redirected to some third party page because that third party code has modified the return URL. It is a query string, anyone can modify, right? And now again you will enter the email password, the third party, right? You will believe that you are logging to the eGOV again, and then that system will redirect back to the eGOV. And eGOV still believes you are logged in, so it will give access to you. But now your credentials are compromised. This is known as CSRF attack. Okay, so we will take an example of this later on. Okay, but these kind of things may happen. So how should we verify? Cross-site, cross-reference security, this kind of heading. Let me just verify. Yes, cross-site request forgery. So its full form is cross-site request forgery. And that's why if you will say, do the scaffolding in the MVC, it will add one filter, which will validate for a token, anti-forgery token. Its filter name is anti-forgery token. If you scaffold controller with action method, right, then it will add a token, anti-forgery token, which will prevent this. Other way is that when we will use the return URL in the code, we should verify whether the URL is for our local system or it is third-party URL. If it is third-party URL, we should block it because we know where we are redirecting, right? So there are different way of handling it. Okay, the framework itself provide using anti-forgery token, or as a developer, we should handle it. We should not rely on anti-forgery token. So we'll discuss that how can we handle it. Okay. So now we are on the login page, right? Now, say this authorize filter we can apply anywhere. We can apply on the controller as well. So if you apply on the controller, then what will happen? All the action methods now require authorization, authentication, right? And that's why even if we request the index action method, we are redirected to the login page. Okay, so let's stop here. This is the question. Home controller is decorated with the authorized attribute and we want to access index and detail action method anonymously. How can we? Right now we can't because the controller itself is decorated with authorized. So every action method in the controller, whether they are decorated or not, they are all require authorization, in turn authentication. But we want some action method without authentication. We want to access them anonymously. How can we do that? Use the attribute allow anonymous. So here we have authorize on the home controller, but for those methods we want allow anonymous or anonymous access, we write allow anonymous. So it will override authorize. Okay, so let's stop here. We'll continue from here in the next class. So thank you very much for joining me. Still we have 2 minutes. If you have doubt, you can ask me. Otherwise, you may take a break. Thank you.